So, this is a little bit weird of a beginning for a video, but I saw these come out a little bit ago. They officially launch on February 16th, but a bunch of influencers on my TikTok feed started getting these in, and I was like, these look very interesting, but I have already 3D printed Crocs, and this is the day after I posted my TPU Air video, and I think you can kind of guess exactly where I'm going with this, but these look very easily printable, and this color looks like a dead ringer for the TPU Air, but the unusual block silhouette makes walking feel a bit different from normal shoes. They're comfy, but not something you choose for long walks or an active day. So I'm wondering if it would be cool to try and make my own brick clogs out of TPU Air. I have enough filament to try it out. These are $150 a pair. I think I could get it quite a bit cheaper, and definitely get it more comfortable. So why don't we just try it? I started designing based on what photos were given to the press, as when I started working on these shoes they had yet to release. To get measurements, I traced my foot onto a sheet of paper and used my calipers to go from there. The main shoe appears to be 3 tiers of stacked bricks, so I took my foot measurements and rounded up to the closest number divisible by 3. On top, I did the same, but with 2, since the top only shows a 4x2 stud pattern. To get the small grooves on the wall, I cut the shoe into 5 separate pieces and chamfered each edge, recombining after all of that was done. For the studs on top, I made 4 equal circles and played around with the sizing until they looked just right. I eventually separated the studs for vertical printing in case that yielded less support material. The strap was pretty straightforward, and measurements were based off the existing shoe. To get the cut on the back, I created an offset plane and removed material vertically. A little fillet at the end added the fine detailing, and the shoe was all ready to go, all modeled. Now, I said it was all ready to go, but you might be asking, Ace, those shoes are solid, how are you going to put your feet in them? For that, I used a slicer trick where I added the blank that I made previously in as a negative modifier on the final shoe. You can see that here on screen right now. This allowed me to quickly change the sizing of the blank without having to go back and change the entire shoe's dimensions. Speaking of slicer tricks, I also used a similar method to add all the Ace-themed text around the shoe. The studs received this Ace text styled in the actual font that's used on the studs of a real Lego brick. The strap got text styled after an actual Croc, but Ace, and the Lego-inspired Ace logo was made and printed as a separate piece and then glued on afterwards. So with the shoe fully designed, it was time to print it. I started printing the straps on my K1, but I knew I couldn't print the entire shoe on this printer due to its sizing. The only printer that I own that was able to fit the entire shoe in one print is my SV08. Okay, so the shoe is finished. Now, I did change this a little bit over the initial draft where I popped these holes out because I was thinking about tilting it 90 degrees, but it ended up that the supports on this side right here were a lot more than the supports that were under here. So I ended up just leaving it as is. So I probably could have gotten away with printing the pieces on top, but it's okay. You know, live and learn. But this feels pretty sturdy, but I did want to show what it looks like on the inside. Not as bad as the other shoes because there was much less travel around here, so didn't have as many opportunities to string, which you can see came out on the side walls, which I'll clean up as well. All right, see you in a little bit. Okay, so a little bit of a unique thing with this shoe that I noticed compared to the other shoe, because it's so big, I can actually just flex the plate and it kind of pops itself off. So you actually will get to see the deplating of the shoe. Listen to that ASMR. Oof. Oh, all right. Here is the shoe. I gotta say, this looks perfect. You can see kind of this split right here. There's the Lego Croc. All right, I'm gonna get let me get an angle in there. So not too bad on the stringing, but definitely as soon as it started doing the supports, it started to really have an issue, but otherwise pretty good. And I can't wait to put this on. So I'm gonna get rid of these supports, and I'll see you guys when this is all cleaned up. Okay, so I have some bad news. I'm out of filament. So if I ordered more, this would have to sit here for a while. So I think this is unfortunately where this shoe will end. However, this hopefully won't be too wasteful, because I will be using some of the pieces from this to buff out the one that I did print. And this won't be the end of me using TPU Air. I still have some of the white left over, and if I decide, I could always just buy more. This is just what SirayaTech sent me. So yeah, this is what it what it looks like. Unfortunately, I didn't catch it in time, and so I had to end the print. I couldn't save it. So yeah. But I do have one successful print, and that's good enough for me. So I'm going to take this off the plate and assemble the final shoe. Okay, so I have the finished shoe. It is much too big for my actual foot, and I wanted to use this failed piece, which I talked about a little earlier, as basically sacrificial material to pad the inside of the shoe. What I should have done, and what I'll probably talk about when I discuss how I designed this, is I should have made these come together at kind of a chamfered edge here to better fit your foot snugly in. That way then I could have printed the piece right side up, and it would have made these printing separate make sense, because then the whole thing would print with no supports, and then it would have printed much better. Okay, so I just used a simple box cutter to actually cut off the two sides of this failed shoe. And then I plan on gluing them on the insides here as a way to pad out the shoe this way, horizontally. Vertically, what I'm going to do is when I glue the straps in, I'm going to actually push the strap up just a little bit more this way. And so that should give me the basis vertically, and these inserts will give me the support that I need horizontally. Okay, so the first insert is in and glued up. Now I'm going to move on to the second one. It does look rough, but again, I'm chopping up a failed print and using it as inserts for the shoe, so it's not going to look perfect. Ideally, I would redesign this, and that's probably what I should have done, but I want to get this video out, and I want to finish this project because I'm excited. So now that the shoe is done, what are my final thoughts? Well, let's start with the positives. I think I visually nailed the Lego Croc, and I'm super proud of that fact. I've been wanting to get back into modeling more of my own projects since my last two videos were majority from other designers. Originally, I had planned to make it a lot more accurate with Croc and Lego lettering, but now that it's all finished, I think I actually like the Ace lettering better, as it makes it feel more like my shoe. The shoe is a clog, so there's really only so comfortable it can be. However, the TPU Air does give it a decent cushion without it being super heavy. I was actually surprised by how wearable it really is. Speaking of the material, with the lessons learned from the previous video, I feel I did a much better job printing with TPU Air this time around. Luckily, I still have just a little bit more left for a few more videos, and if you guys really like this material, please leave a comment down below. In terms of printers, I'm very proud of my SV08. I haven't discussed this printer at length in a video because I've struggled to get it working since I purchased it. While I was very nervous since this printer struggles with just regular PLA, it actually seemed to handle TPU Air better than my A1 and on par if not better than my K1. I touched on it in the beginning, But if you were inspired by this video and want to print your own projects with TPU Air, please check out my previous video for a full guide on how best to print with this material. Also, as this TPU Air is the same from that video, it was graciously provided by SirayaTech, so thank you again to them for providing the filament. Now, let's discuss some negatives with the shoes. Overall, I wish I had more time and materials to iterate this design a bit further. While I did make a foot template and measured it to the actual size of my foot, the eventual shoe was just way too big. To redesign the shoe, I would add a chamfered edge to the top of the heel to make it more stable on the foot, and that would allow me to print the shoe vertically, thus completely eliminating supports. The reason that removing supports is so important to me is I feel that it's necessary to print TPU Air in the best quality. You'll notice in sections where there's majority support, the quality starts to suffer as it has to bounce between areas, and that can lead to under extrusion. Also, the vertical orientation would have allowed me to make the bottoms have that bottom of the brick design like they actually do on the real shoes. On the post-processing end, I would have loved to make the strap actually swivel. A possible idea is to use the same design from the previous Crocs, but hide the axle under the Lego, in this case Ace, logo, sort of like this. Well, I know this was a quick video, but it was a lot of fun for me to put together, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a blast making these, and I now have much more confidence in a lot of the upcoming projects that I have that I'm super excited for. I talked a bit about it earlier, but I think this project is where my faithful K1 might be reaching its limits. So maybe it's time to teach this old dog some new tricks. What do you say? With that, I thank you all very much for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more printing projects, and